You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow, go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. The miles they fade, but they don't die. Faster now, the hours fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss us goodbye. Don't slow down, we're not done. Finish line for the strong ones. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Feel the rush, see the goal. Every second, take control. The world blurs, time won't wait. We rise, we fight, we accelerate. 3, 2, 1, go. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. We're always chasing taillights. You ready?
Good evening, racing fans, and welcome back to RCI TV for what promises to be an electrifying evening of motorsport action. Tonight we bring you the Monday Cup one-off, a thrilling one-hour sprint battle featuring 3 of the most iconic one-make cut machines within ACC. Will the lightweight agility of the Porsche prevail, or can the raw power of the Ferrari and the Lamborghini's balanced precision stake their claim to victory? And there is, of course, only one way to find out. So buckle up and get ready for a race to remember. I'm John Dalton, your lead commentator for tonight's action. Alongside me, the wonderful Jesse Lee. And ensuring every angle is covered, we have Ted Edwards behind the cameras. Welcome, everyone.
Hello, John, and welcome in, Ted, broadcasting the race today. Very glad to have both of you with us for one more Monday race, but it's not a championship. No, it is a one-off event where we have 3 Cup cars of different varieties and speeds and everything, the engine configurations, you name it, we've got it. And it's going to be an interesting day out here at the racetrack in Valencia. What we can't complain about is the weather. 29 degrees C, 22 on the track, a gentle breeze blowing, no real threat of weather here. About as perfect as you could ever have imagined. Qualifying well underway here. Boardman taking it in the Lamborghini. And what you're going to see here, John, of course, is with 3 different Cup cars, they're all very different. They're racing in their own class, of course, but you will see some mixing of the classes. We've got Lamborghini, which is clearly the quickest right now, but Porsche right behind it, the Porsche Cup car. And in a mix, though, the Ferrari Challenge car being the slowest, the more like a road car, if you will. Though still intermixed, all the classes in the middle of this field. That's going to make an interesting start to this race.
Yeah, it will make a very interesting start indeed. Of course, the grid won't be adjusted to regroup the cars. What you see on the left-hand side timing tower is exactly how they will begin. So, of course, Andy Boardman out front, challenged by Badowski. They've been swapping times all throughout practice. Jordan Daly's been up there in the mix as well. Carlos Calatayud throwing his hat in the ring alongside Callum Kerrigan, who was struggling to tame the bull in the practice session earlier on. When he spoke to me. Johan Leffe, we remember that name, Jesse, from the Porsche Cup Season 5. Very fast in his own right. Knows that car very well after a whole season pretty much on Mondays with us. Theobald Roskam in the mix of the Porsches, as you said, of course, in the Lamborghini. And then a kind of blockade of Ferraris towards the back end of the grid with Rudy Filmalter thrown in there for good measure as well. 3 cars, though, electing not to go out in this session by the looks of it. Miguel Martins, Rafael Huel and Ted Ers all maybe going to do the old last to first challenge, or at least an attempt on it today.
Yeah, I think if you're Rafael Huel, I think if you're one of the quicker drivers, Rafael, of course, not a stranger here on Monday, part of the Monday gang, of course, and just a little fun race. Maybe try to go last to first in their class. We'll see just how far up the field they're able to get. Andy Boardman not hanging around. Greased Weasel 69 in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo car, way out there in front. I say way out there. He's only 1/10 in front of Marco Badowski. Jordan Daly in third, Kaladian and Kerrigan the top 5. Now, you have an interesting perspective on Callum Kerrigan, John. He wasn't feeling it, but he's featuring in the top 5 here in quali.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling it, but yeah, certainly has unlocked something. So maybe he's been over to the old YouTube realm, found a bit of a guide on how to tame the Lamborghini as we ride on board here with Andy Boardman on his kind of lap through towards the end of the session. Still trying to seek an improvement here. Currently up to turn 6, and again, track limits being the topic of conversation amongst many people here tonight. Very easy to pick them up at Valencia. A big stand on the brakes for turn 8. Again, another awkward kind of double apex corner. Be careful of the limits on the outside once again. And then the famous kind of turn 11, where we always see drivers either overcook it or completely undercook it and leave themselves vulnerable to a pass before exiting, of course, straight line run down towards turn 12. Careful of the inside curb, even more careful of the outside, as there's a big dip where the escape road comes back onto the start finish straight, and then the long sweeping left heading down towards the final corner of turn 13 straight into 14. And it's crucial to get a good run out of here, because it's a long run down in towards turn 1, and equally that can leave you very open to anybody chasing you for position. Boardman over the line, 132.7. Not good enough to beat his fastest time. However, of course, you've got to remember the Cup cars, no tyre warmers. And again, Turn 1 track limits are extended compared to the rest of the circuit. And that's going to be a point that we're going to talk about a lot tonight, Jesse, is those track limits, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course it is. It may be a one-off, but they follow the same rules of any other race, and that's you cannot get too many track limit warnings. You get 3, and on the 4th time asking, that's going to be a penalty. That's going to be the true today. And a lot of times we know this, John, from calling Monday races where we most often do cup car type competition. These cars don't handle quite as good as even a GT4 car, let alone a GT3 car. And when you get to racing somebody, it's very easily able to get outside of the track's bounds and get yourself into trouble. Though I will admit, everyone looks nice and poised here today. A bit strange to see everybody keeping it more or less on the island, but we'll see when they get out there under anger if there is any difference. Still Boardman, Badowski, and Daly, the top 3. No change there, except Callum Kerrigan has been put outside the top 5. Theobald Roscom up inside the top 5. Matt Malcolm, the Scotsman, leading, or excuse me, the last of the Lamborghinis, I should say, but leading the Porsches is Christian Lindgren. Johan Leffe, second place there, and Nicole Fox has joined us again on a Monday, P3 in the Porsche Cup. Randall, the quickest in the Ferrari Challenge car. Tom Watts, Rob Franken making up the top 3 for that class. I think we should make a prediction, John, just how far up the field. I mean, you could take any of these drivers at the back, Miguel Martins, Raphael Huell, or Urs, but for sake of argument, we'll use Raphael Huell. Quite familiar with them. How far up the field do they get? Now, considering they're not in the quickest car, which is the Lamborghini, how far do they get up? I think they make it all the way to the podium in their class.
I think a podium's going to be a big ask. I mean, Christian Lindgren, we know how quick he can be in the 992 Cup car. Johan Leffe, equally as quick as well. Nicole Fox has her moments within the RCI calendar. We've seen before numerous times with her as well. So, I mean, a podium, I wouldn't say is off the cards for someone like Raphael Huell, but then you've got to bear in mind, of course, Miguel Martins is going to be doing the same thing as him. So you're not only going to be battling other cars around the circuit, but you're going to be battling those guys that are electing to do the last to first challenge as well. So Ted Urs, again, Miguel Martins, 3 Porsches, all trying to carve their way through initially a field of Ferraris, and those cars very quick in a straight line. So the run down to turn 1 is going to be very tricky for those Porsches, but then through the middle sectors, in theory, they should come back at them. But again, lots of straights here at Valencia, so it's very, you know, it's very hard to go defensive when a car has sheer straight line speed, and if you've got a Ferrari ahead of you, that's going to certainly hold you up throughout the twisties.
Matt Malcolm looking to improve upon their lap. They're sort of in no man's land, and the last thing you want to do is start sort of outside of your class, and could be a pretty big improvement for the Malk Racing ST number 1 car as they come to the line, and it at least puts them in amongst their rivals, jumping Callum Kerrigan up to P6 with their own class. That will take the wedge out of the Porsche Cup class. That'll put Lindgren, Leffe, and Fox all together on the starting grid, and that will do them just fine. That suits them right. Watts has improved a bit to get closer to Randall and has stranded Rob Franken in that class behind Mike Redford, who is the wedge between those 3 cars. As qualifying coming to an end, all flying laps, of course, counting here. Jordan Daly for the Just Gamers 197, looking for a late improvement. Does he have one? He does. Well, it says he did, but it didn't count, which tells me it's invalid.
Yeah, very easy to invalidate here at Valencia. As we spoke about earlier on, of course, turn 1 extended track limits. It's kind of turns 2, 4, 5, 6. I mean, you can, count nearly every turn for the exits is going to be the issue. Theobald Roscom throwing himself towards the front end of the grid, getting himself out of the mix of the Porsches that he was kind of stuck in and amongst down the back end of the Lamborghini field. So that's a good improvement there. And fastest times, of course, on your screens at the moment. Andy Boardman takes pole position, 2 pink sectors to his name. The third going to Marco Badowski. Jordan Daly about Roscam. Again, two very quick drivers in their own right. Carlos Calatayud, teammates with Roscam, so we shouldn't see any friendly fire between those two. Matthew Malcolm and Callum Kerrigan rounding out the kind of initial batch of Lamborghinis. I think actually all Lamborghinis grouped together at the front, and then it's just a sea of Porsches and Ferraris. And as we alluded to earlier, the Porsche is going to be better in the corners. The Ferraris are going to get very fast off the line, to keep your eye out for Randall and Watts going down into turn number 1. Rob Frank and Kevin Boss should swallow up Mike Redford quite quickly. And then, of course, Rudy Filmalter, 3 Ferraris behind him as well. So it's going to be crucial to get the kind of good start, the the good reaction to the green lights as they get underway. And if it's a car that I don't want to be, I think Rudy Filmalter is probably going to be where I don't want to be right now, Jesse. 3 Ferraris behind and those 3 Porsches fired up and ready to go.
Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting to see how the Porsche Cup cars that are starting in and around the Ferrari Challenge cars are going to fare, because the Ferrari Challenge cars are not as agile as any of the other cars in the field. So you got to take that into account, especially if you're in a Porsche, you're starting in and around them, that they're not going to be the most spry cars. They're probably the hardest to drive on this entire grid as well. What can you expect from today's race? Well, outside of it being a one-off Cup race, as we've called it, it is a pretty standard affair. It's a 60-minute race with a mandatory pit stop. Tire change is required. I've just noticed. I'm not blind. I believe that says yes, a tire change is required, and 1 liter of fuel. So you have to take a liter of fuel and tires at some point during the 57-minute pit cycle here. I would argue and hazard the guess that a lot of the field are probably going to pit in the middle. If you are starting near the back, you may elect to come in incredibly early, get that stop out of the way. And if you're up near the front, I would imagine you'll come in as late as possible, John.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's going to be all about kind of track position tonight, where you can make that pit stop work and not come out in a sea of, cars that are only going to hold you up. So for the Porsche guys, it's the Ferraris. You don't want to be stuck behind them. For the Lamborghinis, equally, it's the Porsches and the Ferraris. They don't want to be stuck behind. So timing is going to be crucial on the 57-minute pit window. And I didn't even realize there was a tire change required for tonight. So Jesse, you've taught me something for tonight's race. Of course, a lot of drivers will be electing to split this one down the middle. I can assume we're going to see lots of pit action come the 30-minute mark in the race. Weather, of course, not going to be a part of today's action. It's looking nice and sunny for the next 30 minutes. 22 degrees in the air, 29 degrees down on the track. So we're not going to see elongated runs waiting for that weather cycle to come in and, elect a wet tire choice potentially. So that should be all good and plain sailing. RCI calendar this week. Now's a good time to fill you in on what's going on with us. Plenty of action over on the website at the moment. Wednesdays, as always, is reserved for iRacing, and we're bringing you some new content to race with in the form of the BMW M2 CS Racing, and we're heading down under to Oran Park in a fixed setup to 20-minute sprint race format. And bear in mind, for this one, car and track are featured in the base iRacing subscription, so no excuses for not getting your name down for this one. That's this Wednesday. Friday this week, we're heading to our first Le Mans Ultimate event, of course, with dedicated servers being launched very recently. We can now host our own events here at RCI, and we put the vote to the public, and Sebring will play host to a 1-hour race featuring Hypercar and LMGT3 as we race under the evening skies at the historical airfield circuit, and there's still plenty of space last time I looked for that one. Sign-ups are also open for Legends at Southern National in iRacing as well. That takes place on Wednesday, the 8th of January, and similar to the M2, it's 2 by 20-minute sprint races. And again, both car and circuit are featured in the iRacing base subscription. Throwing back to ACC, I told you there was plenty of action on the website at the moment. Remember those GT2 cars that got released in January? Well, next up on Kevin Boss's radar for the Monday schedule will be a trip to Misano with them, starting off the new year on Monday, January 6th. Join us as we take these quick machines around Misano for an hour on the clock and a mandatory pit stop with fixed refueling. Sign-ups on that one, I believe, open Monday, the 23rd of December. And lastly, we had exclusive permission from our broadcaster tonight, Ted Edwards, to tell you all about Night Owl. This one's coming back
everything
as well. We are full of leaks tonight here, Jesse. Somebody get the wet floor sign. For those on the obscure time zone, or those that are, as the name suggests, Night Owls, we're back for season 20, kicking off with a 5-round championship and featuring a custom BOP. 1-hour sprint races with a 90-minute finale. Sign-ups officially are opening on January 4th, with round 1 starting on Saturday, January 18th. So plenty of action on the website at the moment. That's racerci.com. And there is a few more events behind the scenes, but I'm not yet allowed to tell you about. So you just have to keep an eye on the website. Of course, over in the Discord as well, full announcement tags when events go live, so you can be one of the first to sign up to them. You can find all of our links down below anytime, day or night, if you're watching back the race. Of course, the Discord being the hub for everything RCI related. And down below as well, you can find our partners. They're revolving round in the bottom left hand side of your screen for the whole broadcast. But AK Esports, a top provider of premium esports services and equipment, offering everything you need to elevate your competitive gaming experience, and also providing our server solutions here at RCI. Go setups, again, need no introduction. Perfectly crafted car setups tailored to help you get the most out of your racing experience. And also, like us here at RCI, branching out into Le Mans Ultimate, so you can be sure that the setups you choose have extensive hours behind them. And lastly, but no means least, of course, Moser Racing, who we're thrilled to partner with, a leader in high-quality sim racing gear. From precision-engineered steering wheels to durable pedals and advanced wheelbases, Moser Racing has everything you need to boost your racing experience. And we do have an affiliate link down below if you are looking to pick up any new hardware this holiday season. Of course, the Moser R3, very recently released, and a very fair price if you are looking to get into sim racing. That's probably going to be a wheelbase for you. But Jesse, cars are now 2x2 gridding up, finding their grid positions as they roll towards the start line. Lamborghini lockout across the first 7, a sprinkling of Porsches and a smattering of Ferraris towards the back end. This is going to be a bit of a chaotic start. Cars begin to wait for the green flag. A couple of cars jinking out of position, and we are green flag waves from the gantry on the left-hand side. It's a good start from Andy Boardman to the right-hand side of your screen. Marco Badowski going to have to go the long way around, of course, favoured into turn 2. It's going to be the outside line once again, and exercising all the track limits to take avoiding action. Looks like everybody relatively clean. We've got a Ferrari rejoining in the background, 3 wide with Mike Redford. There's contact between Boardman and Badowski as they head into turn 2. Theobald Roskam's off to the left-hand side as well. That's not a great start for him in the number 96. And Badowski manages to scrabble clear. Jordan Daly follows suit in the Just Gamers 197 Lamborghini. Carlos Calatayud off to a good start as well, challenging Andy Boardman as they head up towards turn 6. And Johan Leffe, the man I spoke about in qualifying, he's sniffing at the quarter panel of the Spaniard as they begin the drag race down towards turn 8.
That was a very inauspicious start for some of the top cars running up there. Badowski will take the lead, like you said. Daly, Matt Malcolm now up to 3rd. Kaladiad and Boardman will cycle themselves in to 5th place as they are able to pick up some of the pieces there. They will have to continue to do that. There's no telling how much damage was done to the tires of the car, but because there is a pit stop that requires tires, it may not be the end-all, be-all, and plus they also, as you may imagine, have a slight advantage as they were on pole anyway, so you'd imagine they'd be able to deal with some of that pace. Johan Leffe leading in the Porsche Cup, fighting the Lamborghini Super Trofeo field, and that's a scary proposition because he has to, because Christian Lindgren is just behind Callum Kerrigan there as the top classes are all sort of mixed together here just outside of the top 5. You got to be careful about this if you're Leffe, because you can get yourself into trouble, but this is exactly what I'm talking about as they're all over each other. Randall's trying to make a move on Lindgren, and he'll do that. Randall's able to convert that position. That will ease the pressure on Leffe for a moment. That will further frustrate Christian Lindgren, who has gone down a position, and after one lap, Raphael Huell has already taken half the field and is on the podium in their class. That is absolutely insane.
I was going to say he's already got the podium. We were a bit skeptical. I was a bit skeptical about him making up so much so soon, but he's managed to do it in just one lap. So still 57 minutes on the clock. We'll have to see what Raphael Huell can do. But Christian Lindgren there being swallowed up by Randall. That was the pure straight line speed of the 488 Challenge Evo cars. I think Tom Watts was trying to sniff on his way through on Christian Lindgren down into turn 1 as well. And Rob Franken, one of our stewards, just ahead here of Raphael Huell. He's going to get the legs down into turn 12. The opening round, turn 13, is going to be certainly probably a bit of a Ferrari corner as well, although a bad exit for Rob Franken. That leaves him vulnerable on the inside heading through turn 13. The better braking of the Porsche just about gets it drawn up in time. No contact from the Suspicious Cats car, but we're going to see the straight line speed now of the Ferrari. Keep your eye, Rob Franken. He's going to pull out to driver's right, going to make it too wide down into turn 1. We've already got 2 Ferraris ahead, jinking, and Rob Franken is alongside Raphael Huell and not making it easy for the German driver in the Suspicious Cats entering as they'll go side by side into turn 2, although Huell very brave, very late on the brakes, runs his way around the outside line over the curbing. That could be a track limits warning very early on for the Porsche driver. Time will tell, and we're only 4 minutes in, Jesse, and already plenty of action and lots of position swapping in between the classes.
Yeah, and nobody coming into pit lane immediately, which I thought we'd at least see some drivers that were out of position, maybe not racing in amongst their class, to come in. That hasn't happened at all. Everybody's still out there racing for spots. As the pit window opened, nearly everybody would have had the option to come in the last time through. They did not. Will they come in this time? Only time will tell. I don't think so. I think they're locked in to fighting this fight. You know, I also clocked that there was a tire change requirement really late after I looked at the regulations a couple times, and we have seen this before. I wonder if some of the drivers maybe didn't look at it because it's a one-off. Off of the racetrack there is Matt Malcolm a little bit able to get over on the marbles. Normally that sends you for a little bit of a ride, but no, he's able to gather it back in. But Carlos Caladia, that certainly visually grabbed a little bit of that advantage and won't be able to make a move down into turn 1, it looks like, at least not this time. Valencia, one of the lesser known tracks in ACC, locally known as the Circuit Ricardo Tromo. It is 2.489 miles, or just about 4 kilometers exactly if you prefer New World measurements. So let's check out some of the replays from the early action. Maybe we'll catch that leader spin.
Yeah, heading down into turn 1. Kevin Boss on the inside here. A bit of a squeeze. Mike Redford finds himself in a Ferrari sandwich, and that was why we saw the red car way out of contention towards the right-hand side, but just about holding on Kevin Boss there. It was always really scary when you get kind of sandwiched like that in ACC with the ping-pong kind of collision physics. This is Andy Borkman sizing up Badowski. It was actually Daly.
Don't know what happened.
I think it was Daly into the back of Boardman by the looks of it. It looked like Boardman kind of braked a tad early and Daly went into the back of him. I thought Badowski had turned into Boardman initially, but looking back, I think Daly was a bit zealous on the brakes.
He might have been. I don't know if there was a curb or it was a Constantina effect going on there. But here, still 3 wide. This is back just about where they were 4 wide going into the first corner, and more contact there in behind the initial spin on lap 1, turn number 2. They all were able to just about sort that out. All of this to say that Marco Badowski has been afforded a 2 1/4 second lead over Boardman right now, but Andy Boardman just did reset quick lap. Nicole Foxes went around. Let's see exactly what's happened to them. Rob Franken in front, and just a fight over space. And is she going to... Yeah, that wasn't Rob Franken, that was Nicole Fox, of course, but I think what happened there is she chose to ride the grass as if to not rejoin in a precarious position there.
Yeah, I think so. Just kind of sacrifice their own race to keep everybody else safe, essentially, and a bit of rallycrossing for Nicole Fox. Meanwhile, Christian Lindgren, this was down into turn one. I think this is Randall and Watts swarming the Porsche driver very early on in lap two, I believe that happened, and Christian Lindgren managing to get back underway and escape the clutches of the Ferraris over the course of a lap. Of course, the straight line speed is the only thing really keeping the Ferrari in touch with the Porsche. As soon as you get through the twisty stuff, the Porsche certainly does begin to exercise its strengths. Jordan Daly, though, being kept honest by Matthew Malcolm. I was quite expecting Daly to, sail off into the distance. A very well-rehearsed driver with us at RCI, Jesse, even featuring, of course, on the RCI esports team. But Matthew Malcolm glued to him something rotten in this Lamborghini.
I might have a new hire here in about 5 minutes if he keeps this up. Matt Malcolm, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what he ate for breakfast or maybe for dinner this evening, but absolutely under fire from Carlos Colladi, and who's looking to take that position. Malcolm attempts to defend, can't do it. Looks for a way down the inside, can't do it either. Nothing doing. Colladi covers the position and gets it. Carlos Colladi up to 4th place here on an expertly done move down into turns one, or to set it up in turn one, get it done. In turn two, Malcolm might have been better off there had he not attempted to defend that move, because all it really did was let Carlos through there, and now he'll take 4th and he'll go up there and try to take the fight to Jordan Daly.
Always the awkward one, isn't it? Do you want to defend? Do you want to let it be and try and, come back at the driver after the corner, get the, wider run, the earlier on the power, and get the better drag towards the next section of the corners? Hindsight is a wonderful thing sometimes, and we don't always possess it as drivers, and if we did, we'd be very well rehearsed in many different scenarios. Andy Boardman, just want to touch on him. 3 laps running now, Jesse, as we see a bit of a rub from Kevin Boss and Nicole Fox as she tries to make her way back through the pack of Ferraris in her Porsche. Just want to touch on Andy Boardman. Fox is the wrong way around, though. Yellow flag out down at turn 11. Let's catch another replay. Has Kevin Boss been involved in this one? Still behind Boss, indeed, as they stand on the brakes. And the typical back-end Porsche nonsense on the brakes. The rear overtaking the front, of course, all the weight over that rear axle. As soon as you stand on the brakes while turning, the rear becomes light. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happens in the Cup car sometimes. Was just going to touch on Andy Boardman. Last 3 laps running prior to this one. This one hasn't been a fastest lap, but prior to that, 3 laps in a row, Jesse, fastest lap of the race every single time. So he's on a real mission to try and catch the back of Badowski right now.
Oh my goodness, Ted Urs is going to fly off the racetrack for flying hellfish. That's not what they would like to have seen down in turn number 3. This is after Duhan. And is this fighting with Kevin Boss? It is, but I don't know if it's a Porsche thing, and it is. It's just another Porsche thing as the car gets over the curb and all the weight comes out of the back of it. And, they are still fighting that car, is Ted Urs for flying hellfish. They'll get it back on the racetrack here and get going, but the tires are absolutely cooking on that car. And while that was all going on, Matt Malcolm come down, and they have completed their mandatory pit stop. They're the first car to do so. But back to your point, John, you're absolutely right. Andy Boardman has absolutely been eating in that lead. It was 2.2 seconds 3 laps ago, and when we say that Boardman has been the quickest car and has been resetting fast lap after lap, in fact, this is the first lap where they haven't done in several laps, we mean that. They were chunking time out of Badowski's lead, 3-4 tenths a lap. 2.2 seconds has evaporated, and now there is clearly a fight for the lead. Catching's one thing, passing's another. We'll have to see what Marco Badowski can do, as Callum Kerrigan is the second car to blink.
Yeah, it's going to be the thing, isn't it? It's all very well catching. It's getting past, as we saw the weekend just gone when we took, of course, the 6-hour esports series. There was lots of catching, but not necessarily so much passing once rivals did get together. Very hard to get through each other in GT racing, and in Cup racing it's certainly even that bit harder, although with a mix of cars in the field tonight, it should be relatively easy depending which manufacturer is versing which manufacturer. Callum Kerrigan, of course, down the lane. He'll be the second one to blink alongside Matthew Malcolm. So their tyres getting towards the end of the race are going to have, 15 to 20 minutes more than those that tend to split the race down the middle. So going to have to keep an eye on their pace as they get towards the end. Towards the front, though, it is, of course, Badowski and Boardman running equal times. Jordan Daly, though, not able to touch them just yet. And Carlos Calatayud putting pressure on to Daly. Johan Leffe just outside the 1 minute 32s that the guys ahead are running. He's running low, 1 minute 33. So, again, if he can kind of unlock the pace or find the groove here at Valencia, he could latch on to the lead Lamborghini battle. And something we've not really touched on, Jesse, is how the tyre wear is, of course, going to evolve for lots of these cars. The Porsche, typically, we know, very harsh on the rear tyres. The Lamborghini, big power plant over the rear axle over long periods, can also be quite harsh on the rear tyres as well. But, Lamborghini, on paper, I'm going to say is more than likely going to be a heavier car than the Porsche Cup car, so it could be a bit of a trade-off in tyre wear this evening.
Yeah, and don't forget about the Ferrari Challenge car. That thing has about 10 to 15 minutes on its tires, and then all of a sudden it becomes a skating rink for a lot of drivers. Yeah, it's real bad. I love that car for that reason. I raced in one of the very first races we ever did in that car at Spa. I think it was a test race, but going up Eau Rouge Raidillon was an absolute thrill in the best and worst possible way. There's no roller coaster in the world that could replicate what that car's like. So you're going to see that. 30 minutes in most cars, I think, is doable. The Lamborghini should be mostly fine as long as they don't abuse the rubber. The Porsche is going to change handling characteristics a little bit, and you could absolutely bake the tires off of that car. Case in point, Mike Redford for Mike Racing there. But the worst car in the field for dealing with tire deg, absolutely that Ferrari Challenge. Every single one of those cars are thankful that there is a tire change, because they're not even going to make it to a point, or 15 minutes in that car feels like an eternity. They've at least, most of them are going to do 30 minutes, and that will be 15 minutes too long for some of their taste. Well, Andy Boardman has caught Badowski, but hasn't been able to do anything with him. Shades of the eSports. Seriously about Roscom, though, for the Temporal Name Motorsport team, is going down the inside of Tom Watts, and will take that position. Of course, not in class, but Roscom trying to get back up to his group. Let's reset the race. Badowski, Boardman, Daly, the top three currently in their class. And that is, of course, the Lamborghini Super Trofeo class. In the Porsche Cup class, Johan Leffe has led the entire way over Christian Lindgren, with Raphael Huel, who after one magical lap got themselves all the way up into third. They were about 12th place or so at that time. They're still in third in class, but they're all the way up to 7th overall. Randall leads it in the Ferrari Challenge class over Watts and Franken. All of those cars are split up currently, and they're split up by both classes. In fact, a mixed bag, if you will, in the middle of the field, as we expected. Carlos Calatayud, though, is caught Daly after he has dispatched of Matt Malcolm earlier, who has since done a pit stop. Calatayud on Daly for third.
Yeah, it's going to be for the bottom step of the podium within the Lamborghini class. And just looking towards the last lap time, Carlos Calatayud certainly quicker, 0.2 of a second, 1:32.9 for Daly versus 1:32.7 as Daly begins to run wide in the first sector. That opens the door to Carlos, but the inside will become the outside as they go through the switchback natures of the corners, and heavy curb usage allows Carlos Calatayud up the inside. But Jordan Daly with the retaliation as they come up towards turn 6. Daly's going to have to go the long way around. Yellow Lamborghini on the inside. There's a hip and shoulder check. Daly out towards the right-hand side, keeps it within the track limits, and it becomes a straight drag race through the kink of 7 down to the braking zone of turn 8. Looks like Daly's carrying much more speed compared to Carlos. Carlos looks much more tamed, but again, the outside becomes the inside as they head towards turn 11. Daly over the curb, stands on the brakes. Carlos over the marbles, running wide, can't can't get the car turned in for 12, and Jordan Daly prevails some 2.5 sectors later, Jesse. That fight's been going on for nearly 3/4 of the lap.
Well, if you ever needed a lesson in perseverance and never giving up, look no further than Jordan Daly. That was incredible. He could have just let him through, and it almost looked like he had done, like he had let him go. But no, no, no. What he was doing was trying to set him up as they went through Herreros, and that's exactly what he did, and got stuck side by side. A sector or two later, able to prevail again. Kaladi had nowhere else to go but off the racetrack. Just a little bit out there in the clag, and again, position not converted. Carlos would have thought it was done and dusted. Daly with the crossover move gets back in the fight. Never give up, I think, is what we are trying to teach the kids on that one. Never give up. Be Jordan Daly. Fight for every last scrap. And hey, if there's somebody in this field that's going to fight you, it's going to be Daly.
Yeah, Daly never normally backs down, does he, from a fight? Sticks it out to the very end, and luckily prevailed that time with Carlos Calatayud. Meanwhile, though, Andy Boardman last time by 132.4, much quicker than Badowski. That's brought him back up to the rear end of the number 45 car in the race lead. It seems like Boardman may be affected somewhat by the dirty air. We've seen Boardman catch, we've seen him fall off, and now he's caught again. Can he do anything this time by? It's always the awkward thing. Equal machinery, trying to pass somebody who's on a very similar pace to yourself. We've seen Boardman and Badowski, you know, throughout the Monday gang races, hosted of course by Tim Ireland, now taking over the reins with Kevin Boss. We've seen these two, you know, duel it out, duke it between themselves across various championships, and they reach their head once again as they come to the one-off cup here at Valencia. And last time by, Badowski and Boardman 32.8 pace, so matching lap time for lap time as Badowski runs a little bit wide through turn one. Could that be another track limits violation? It's certainly an invalid lap on my live timing, Jesse, and you got to be careful stacking up track limit warnings, you know, 20, not even 20 minutes into the race. 19 minutes into the race is still a long way to go yet.
Yeah, it's risk versus reward. You don't want to give up the lead of the race right now, but you have to wonder, is it really worth it? I think Boardman's using his tires a little bit more than Badowski is right now as well. We saw Daly with his defense earlier. Jordan's really good at not using the tire all the time, knowing when he can back off, when he has to use it. Boardman's the opposite. He is cranking that thing off of every corner, getting it sideways. Badowski not doing that, but Badowski's got a more immediate problem that he's going to have to deal with, and that's the track limits, because I absolutely agree with you. That's at least, I think, the second invalidation for Badowski. That means he's only got one more warning he can be afforded before he gets a penalty, and we're only 20 minutes into this race. So risk versus reward. Is it worth it here to try and keep him behind and maybe use up some of this track limits? Only time will tell which is the right strategy. Will Boardman's tires be okay? Because if he is in an aero wash of that Lambo, which I suppose he is, how much damage is he doing to his tires following that closely? This track, of course, known for its tire deck. A lot of the corners are fast, sweeping. Some of them are tight. And the switchback nature of the track, specifically in the middle sector as well, is not particularly kind to the Pirellis.
Yeah, I seem to remember running a 992 here. I think Wednesday sprint races, rear tires absolutely cooked on that thing within, you know, 10 to 15 minutes of real hard battling with other people. So it's quite easy to overdrive the circuit here at Valencia, and just spying around various drivers' streams you can find over obviously on Twitch or YouTube, depending how many of the field you follow. Kevin Boss already 2 track limit warnings to his name in the Ferrari, so he's you know, teetering on the edge, should we say. If he's picked up 2 in 20, another 2 in 20, he's going to come down the pit lane for an extra trip if he's not careful. Spying in on Mike Redford, he looks to be clean, I want to say, although he has got an overlay obscuring.
Badowski off of the racetrack. Boardman around the outside. Position changed, and just like that, Andy Boardman for Greased Weasel back in the lead.
And as soon as we say that, a drive-through for Carlos Calatayud popping up.
Oh,
The number
no.
30 is the first to fall foul of the track limits. Of course, no live stewards here tonight, and even if they were here, they wouldn't be handing out drive-through penalties. So Carlos electing to take that one very quickly indeed. Standing on the brakes, nose of the car dips down nice and early on the pit limiter, because again, Jesse, the last thing you want to do is get yourself over frustrated and overworked, come into the pit lane too fast and elect yourself for another pit lane penalty. As we catch a race replay here between Rudy Filmalter, some Ferrari zooming back on in front of shot, but it is Rudy and Nicole Fox, and Nicole waiting very admirably for Rudy, of course, not needing to do that under new RCI racing rules, and no live stewards here tonight. So it's a bit of a friendly, fun event, Jesse, and it's good to see the drivers in the same spirit as well.
Yeah, of course, 'tis the season after all, but Nicole Fox didn't want to go in there and do that. So, she may not be aware of the new rule, but I'm pretty sure she would have done that anyway, as sort of a my bad, let them back by and continue the fight. Just a little bit of an incident there. So what that has done is that has rearranged some of the field. And we'll see just how far Raphael Huell will continue to fight, because he is on the back of Christian Lindgren for P2 in their category. And I was saying that maybe a top three was as far as they could possibly go. Well, now I'm starting to wonder if Raphael Huell can't win this race in the Porsche Cup class.
Yeah, so we saw him last time out, didn't we, in the Porsche Cup Season 5, putting on a very admirable show, missing out on the championship honours only just towards the end by Martin Lawrence's kind of sheer dominance as Christian Lindgren peels off into the pit lane. There's a slow Ferrari to the left-hand side of the circuit. Back into the racing line they shall go. Johan Leffe, leader of the Porsches. Raphael Huell now up into second. Christian Lindgren in P3. And it is, of course, one of our stewards in the number 20 Ferrari. Currently down in P22, but still sticking it out nonetheless. And that's what we love to see here at RCI. But back to Raphael Huell, dominant start to the Porsche Cup season. Second twice, third, a fourth, dipped in Bathurst to a 25th, and then finished up at Kyalami with a second. And had it not been for Martin Lawrence's clean sweep in all 5 rounds, I think it probably would have been near enough. Good enough to go to the title race. So Raphael Huell, well rehearsed in this car, but equally Johan Leffe, we saw them with a very dominant performance in the rounds that they did show up to. Paul Ricard, you remember, stab right out the gate. Jesse Lee was Johan Leffe chasing down Martin Lawrence, used the best of their Pirellis a little bit too much in the early stage. Lawrence prevailed on that one. Second at Bathurst and first at Kyalami. So again, Johan Leffe and Raphael Huell, both very good drivers, and if anybody can challenge the Lamborghinis, I reckon one of those two could possibly do so. But again, Christian Lindgren third in the Porsche Cup Series, and again a very consistent realm of results with a third, fourth, second, third and fifth, and the worst finish being a 25th at the Hungaroring. So each driver had their falls throughout season 5, but again, if anybody knows this car like them, it's, these guys are going to be the ones to challenge those top 3 Lamborghinis towards the end.
Yeah, speaking of the devil, Huell in the not suspicious Cats number 21, and they are going to definitely look to use this to their advantage and not necessarily have to overtake some of the other traffic out there. What Raphael Huell's hoping by doing this is getting themselves sort of out of their traffic and into clean air. We'll see if that's possible. Rob Franken comes in for Ferrari Challenge. The leader of that class has already come in. Leon Randall was one of the first cars. I think they were the 3rd car in this field to come down pit lane. So very strange that the leader in a class would do that, but they may have been quite close to some of the traffic for the other classes and didn't want to get held up. And they elected to come in quite early indeed. No problems on any of the pit stops thus far. Matt Malcolm leads the cars that have pitted in the number 1. Remember, they were the first car on pit lane. Callum Kerrigan came down 1 lap after that, and now we've seen more cars come in. Nicole Fox has just completed a pit stop as well. Rob Franken I've just seen in the 202 Ferrari Challenge car down the pit lane as well. Andy Boardman, who took the lead on a ill-fated off track from Badowski a few laps ago. Credit to Marco. they've not given up this fight. It's still within a second. If this was Formula One, they'd still have DRS at this stage, as looks like Boardman has got out in front, and maybe this is their strategy to not try to drive away as much as possible, or maybe Badowski has found a little something. Either way, the top two separated by just about a second. Jordan Daly still holding on to third place, as some of the cars behind him have decided to come down the pit lane, more and more making that decision near the halfway point, as Mr. John Dalton has predicted. Leffe continues to lead in the Porsche Cup. Tom Watts has assumed the lead in the Ferrari Challenge car, as we're getting really close to having halfway and half of the cars down pit lane. I still say, though, the majority of leaders that are sort of unimpeded here, John, they're probably not going to come down unless the tire deg is that bad, then in which case there's no reason to not come down to the halfway point.
Yeah, precisely that. I mean, you'd be silly to come out of clean air, wouldn't you? And then throw yourself potentially back into someone else's fight, or, a class fight that's not even part of your class. So a Porsche and a Ferrari, or, Lamborghini on Porsche, or something to that nature. But again, got to remember, some of these drivers maybe have predicted that they're going to be coming down at the halfway mark regardless. So at that point, fuel becomes a problem. And of course, you can't drive more than the fuel allows you to in ACC. The car will just simply cut out. So sometimes you'll be dictated by your fuel tank more than anything. And if you are in clear air, you're going to want to try and keep it that way, as Miguel Martins goes sailing round turn 12, much wider than Mike Redford. And if you do want to check out Mike Redford's POV, that's his Twitch handle across his rear wing. MYK Red 2Ds number 95. Key that into Switch and you should be able to find his POV. And Miguel Martins sniffing at the back bumper of him. Will either driver come down the pit lane this time? Neither of them blinking, and they will go by one more. Miguel Martins, of course, starting from the back of the field, such as Raphael Huell did, looking left, looking right, just trying to offset Mike Redford's eye line from the apex to the mirror more than anything, see if he can distract him going through turn one. But Mike Redford, cold as ice, not distracted at all, and prevails in towards turn two. And these two I wouldn't normally put together on a circuit. However, when you throw them in the odd kind of non-GT3 machinery, it does create some very strange talent battles, as Jordan Daly leaves the pit lane, P11, after peeling out of P4, I believe, P3 in that one. So he'll get back underway for the Just Gamers car, and as one car leaves, another car enters, Rudy Filmalter in the number 99, dropping the Hammer Racing car. He comes down the lane, as well as Carlos Calatayud actually snuck in with Jordan Daly. They're out P16, a bit of a longer stop by the looks of it for Carlos, but on the pit stop timer looking relatively equal. So did Daly pull out, was the gap much larger to Daly? The drive-through penalty, of course, Jesse.
Yeah, I was going to say, I believe that was Carlos's second trip down pit lane, if memory serves. So that has doomed them. That also released Daly, of course, from their fight that they were in as well. So no issues there. Daly assumes the role of the first car of those that have pitted, as we've got a nice split between the two. Johan Leffe has pitted just now out of the lead in the Porsche Cup category. Tom Watts is going to surrender the Ferrari Challenge lead, or at least we believe Tom Watts is going to surrender the Ferrari Challenge lead. Anything is possible. John, you make a really good point, though. You talk about drivers that don't typically, they race together, but they're not racing against each other all the time. And now you've got these one-off events like this that make it so that they are racing each other, and in some cases very different machinery. Of course, no one really cares about where you finish overall in a multi-class race, except whenever you beat somebody you shouldn't, and then you brag about it a little bit.
Absolutely so, and here we go. Raphael Huell, Johan Leffe out of the pit lane, and Raphael Huell up the inside initially will be the first Porsche on the road that has taken their mandatory pit stop. Of course, Redford and Martin still yet to take theirs, and when they do, in theory, should fall behind Raphael Huell. But that's a very good call there from Raphael Huell to get ahead of Johan Leffe. Perfectly timed pit stop as well, and of course minimize the loss in traffic, dispatching of Callum Kerrigan very quickly through turn 13 into 14, and he now finds himself onto the back of Matthew Malcolm, who hopefully shouldn't impede all too much. Johan Leffe, though, has been stuck behind Kerrigan through the first sector, so that's going to open up the gap for the Suspicious Cats number 21, and should give him a bit of breathing room in order to get past Matthew Malcolm ahead. Of course, Malcolm has taken their mandatory pit stop, so they won't be peeling off anytime soon. And then in theory, everybody else ahead of Huel is still yet to pit, so should be minimal loss once they dispatch of Matthew Malcolm. Whoa! And doing so on turn 12, and the bouncy nature of the 992. Ride 'em Cowboy just about holding on to that pack of Suspicious Cats, and I think that's going to be a code brown for Matthew Malcolm, so much so he forgets where to brake for turn 14, and Raphael Huel goes back up the inside. Let's catch a race replay, Jesse. I don't think it's going back enough, unfortunately, but the exit curve of turn 12, when we rode on board Andy Boardman's qualifying lap, I did say be very careful of the curbs at turn 12, and that is exactly why you need to be careful, as the number 96 picks up a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
Oh, I didn't think we'd see that here today, but yes, we have. It is speeding in the pit lane for Theobald Roscom, and that's going to take him out of the fight here for a top 5 position. Well, not only overall, but in class, as that was speeding in the pit lane. That's speeding under 3 kilometers, by the way. You get a drive-through penalty for that. Anything over that, you get a stop and go. So that's minor speeding in the pit lane, but a drive-through nonetheless. And that is excruciating. You know, John, there's a reason Cowboys wear brown trousers.
I absolutely agree with you there, Jesse Lear. Just had a look out the comms box window. The pit lane speed board is still there. It's still standing. Sometimes here at Valencia, we do see that dispatched of from a driver on their pit entry, but definitely.
What are you saying there,
standing.
John? What are you insinuating by saying that the pit board's still there?
I think Roscam should have, braked a bit earlier, or maybe rehearse their pit entry. Of course, if you do so.
You were attempting to correlate that maybe the board had been hit by somebody else and he couldn't spot the line, is what you were trying to say.
I was hoping to give him the excuse of the board wasn't there.
The benefit of the doubt. Yeah.
The board was there, unfortunately, Roscam. So maybe not adjusting the braking marker for the Cup car. Of course, GT3 cars a little bit different in the way they slow down, as we see a flurry of cars into the pit lane. Boardman, Badowski and Roscam to do their drive-through penalty, and I think Roscam's actually parking it by the looks of it. He's pulled over and jumped to pit lane indeed, and out of the server goes Theobald Roscam. So one retiree from the race tonight, and you can't really blame him, can you, Jesse? Turned around at the beginning of the race and a drive-through penalty, and bowing out of the race. Garage door goes down, and Roscam will take no further part in tonight's action.
Frustrating day for Theobald Roscam, you have to say, but there's always next time, and of course a full slate of racing action, not only to end the year, but to begin 2025 here on RaceRCI.com. And we'll bring you live images from all of the races next year here on RCI TV. Leave a like, leave a follow, depending on what platform you are watching on. Subscribe over on YouTube as well. Doesn't cost you a thing. And we'll bring you all the live action. Still got one more live stream this year that we're guaranteed, and that's Wednesday, the iRacing M2 Cup race. Brand new car in iRacing. John, you went over that. We'll be live with you on Wednesday this week. And maybe, who knows, maybe a pop-up streamer here or two in between that as well. Pit stop didn't go well for Roscoe, but it did go well for Andy Boardman and Marco Badowski. No dramas there. Miguel Martins will assume the overall lead of the race, the only car in this field to have not pitted thus far. Boardman, though, does lead Badowski. If anything, Boardman gained a 10th or 2 coming in and out of the pit lane. Daly still holds on to 3rd in the class and will be overall once Miguel Martins makes their pit stop. Raphael Huel, the clear leader in the Porsche Cup category, has left Johan Leffe in the dust here, as Leffe is stuck behind Matt Malcolm fighting over 6th place overall, but a meaningless position for the both of them. Leffe seems to have the legs, however, and is trying to get that position back. But Raphael Huel started shotgun on the fields next to last and has taken the lead in their class. And not only have they taken the lead, John Dalton, they're inside the top 5 overall.
Yeah, we predicted a podium, didn't we? You know, on
We sold him
Raphael Hill.
short.
And we definitely sold him short. I mean, he's on top step of the Porsche podium, fourth place overall in the race once Miguel Martin's pits, and could even challenge, you know, Jordan Daly if he's got the legs underneath him. Daly starts making a few mistakes. I mean, it's a big ask from Raphael Hill, but never say never as Johan Leffe finally passed Matthew Malcolm into some clear air, and you just see the top of the shot there. That's Raphael Hill going down in towards turn 1, and Christian Lindgren now has to do the same through Callum Kerrigan and Matthew Malcolm. The number 33 has to get before they can touch the back of Johan Leffe's car, and all the meanwhile, Leffe in that clear air ahead will be trying to claw back towards Raphael Hill. Just looking towards the pit stop timers, everybody relatively speedy across pit lane. Andy Boardman, 1 minute 6.6. Badowski at 1 minute 7.2. So time loss there between the two initial race leaders. Jordan Daly equally a slow 1 minute 7.4 down the lane. Raphael Hill quite speedy, matched Andy Boardman 1 minute 6.6. Johan Leffe with a 1 minute 6.4, so again quicker than Raphael Hill there. Matthew Malcolm possibly a bit of damage, 1 minute 9 on his stop. Christian Lindgren 1 minute 10. That's again a big time loss as we see Mike Redford elbows out on a Ferrari. I'm not too sure who that is, possibly Tom Watts in the number 42. It is indeed for the FF Corsa, and Tom Watts taking no prisoners on his circuit venture
he's
tonight.
trying to win. He's trying to win his category. He came out the pit lane less than 1.5 seconds behind Leon Randall, and that fight I thought was going to be close, and it is still. But Watts, in the course of half in a race, Mike Redford lost about half a second in that exchange to Leon Randall's delight.
Yeah, and speaking of losing time, Leon Randall very slow down pit lane, 1 minute 11.4 versus Tom Watts 1 minute 7.8. So, you know, Tom may have noticed that and thinks maybe I can have him on the circuit. Let's get a move on. Let's try and get through Redford and see, like you say, Jesse, if they can win the class overall for the Ferrari Challenge entry there, as Raphael Hill slots his way up into fourth. Jordan Daly, next car, of course, on his list for unofficial honours and overall bottom step of the podium, shall we say. And,
John, how would you feel about that?
What's that?
How would you feel? Oh, stop and go 30, speeding in the pit lane for DCC Motorsports, Miguel Martins. The second issue on pit lane. This is a major infraction, more than 3 kilometers over the speed limit, and that will be day done for the number 62. And a drive-through penalty for Peter Varga in the 508 Ferrari Challenge car, and that was for track limits. The penalties coming in heavy here with 20 minutes left to go. My question was, we're going to try and figure out where he got this penalty from. It would have been before that. He cut across the island, and that got him a drive-through penalty. So maybe he was retiring that car anyway, or something went wrong with his pit stop. Maybe didn't get enough fuel in it. Either way, they're going to have to come back down pit lane again, and they have done, and they are exiting. So I have no idea what happened to Peter Varga, because he's still not stopped that car, but he certainly made a late decision to come down pit lane. He's essentially served 2 drive-through penalties. But back to my original point, I was going to ask you, if you're Jordan Daly, how do you feel about that? I mean, obviously, I don't think Raphael Hill's going to catch him, but how would you feel that if you are Daly, if Huell was attempting to race you in a different class, knowing that there's nothing at stake for both of you? One's in the lead, one's got a nice podium going here. How would you feel about being raced by a presumably usually slower class?
I would say it's worrying to a degree, but I mean, if you look towards the lap time, if Jordan Daly's got the MFD displaying in the correct manner, and he can see Raphael Huell's lap times, it's about 0.3 on their last laps between them, and 0.6 between their best laps. So realistically, 13 seconds, it's not going to happen. However, again, never say never. Bit of a hairy moment through turn 12, having to avoid Rudy Filmalter taking a trip to the gravel. And we've already seen Peter Varga picking up a drive-through penalty. I think it was in the last corner, Jesse. I think he ran a bit too wide towards the right-hand side.
Just a little bit too wide, eh?
Grabbed the drive-through and then thought, you know what? I'm going to serve it right now.
Chuck it down the lane.
cuts across the lane. And of course, Peter Varga had cleared his mandatory stop. That was back on lap 19. That was a full service 1 minute 6.8. So again, no real reason to come down. So the only place you can assume it's happened is that last corner, and it is super finicky on the exit curb. I've fallen foul of it a few times. You kind of run wide as a driver and you think, how was that a warning? I was nowhere near using extra road, but of course the game
he
never
still had
lies.
two on the.
Certainly detects it.
He wasn't completely on the green, the artificial turf area either. He still had 2 tires firmly planted on the actual curbing there. So it may be exactly that. You may be calling it correct, how finicky it is. Ted is getting involved in a little fender bender there with a Porsche Cup car, but other than that, no real harm or foul beyond that. Just a slight bit of fender damage. Cars continuing to race. Now trying to make up a spot here on Nicole Fox, who's had a wild race, qualified P3, but has had an absolute nightmare of a race ever since, but now finds themselves with a little bit of company, racing over what I believe to be 5th place, 5th or 6th place anyway.
Fourth?
That's 5th.
Fifth. I miss Redford in the Ferrari sandwich in P12, but yeah, certainly is that one. And it's always good, isn't it, Jesse, when you get towards the latter half of the race, when you think your race is kind of done and dusted, you find yourselves a partner, and before you know it, you've got your own mini race going on between the two of you.
Can I just point out, Badowski is closing down Andy Boardman. It was nearly 3 seconds the gap. It's 2.2 seconds now, 1st to 2nd place. Daly pretty secure and is quicker than Raphael Huell, and so that won't be a factor. Of course, Daly in the John Dalton zone. We'll call it the John Daly zone for today. In the absolute smack dab middle of nowhere. Might as well be in Nebraska. Take that, yeah, Nebraska.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, me and Daly do share the same Lumi rank letters as well, so that's not all too unfeasible. God. And if you do not know what the John Dalton zone is, if you're new to us here at RCI TV, it's a bit of a running joke amongst everyone, but you're too fast for the guy behind you, but you're equally too slow for the guy ahead of you, so you just sit in this empty no man's land that Jesse Lee has now dubbed Nebraska.
Yeah, well, welcome to Nebraska, where nothing happens and nobody cares. Just kidding, Nebraska, only I'm not. Looks like, yeah, it's still happening. Another 2/10. That sector alone, Marco Badowski closing in for the lead. John Daly in 3rd place in the middle of nowhere, but behind them this fight, Christian Lindgren from Sim Brothers looking to make up a spot, and does, on Matt Malcolm, who has found himself passing and being passed by a lot of the traffic here today, but he's made it as painless as possible, and he's made it as streamlined as possible. What does that mean? Well, he's not lost a whole lot. He's still in 4th place as Malcolm for all the cars that have passed him. Nearly all the top 3 now in Porsche Cup has made the pass on him, but because it's not been miserable, he's kept Kerrigan and Kaladian behind them, and there is still a little bit of a gap there with 15 minutes left to go. You're talking about the Lumi rank. I always liked it because my entire last name fits on the Lumi rank. Oh my goodness, the Sind! What a Sind! It's the Sind of the century! Oh my goodness! Matt Sincom gets immediately repassed, and I don't know why he would have done that. That scared me, and I'm in the booth.
Yeah, it was a very hairy moment going from talking about Lumi rank to seeing, 2 cars firing themselves in towards turn 2. But Matthew Malcolm not taking this one lying down. 007 now on the Lumi rank, and he is behind you, Mr. Lindgren. Look out behind you. Mr. Malcolm is on his way towards the inside of turn 8, and it's tit for tat. Matthew Malcolm, and there's a Ferrari on the outside. I think that's speed
what's happening
in the number 20, and it's a bit of a tit for tat going on between Malcolm and Lindgren.
Oh, that has blown him up, because now that's Callum Kerrigan in the pink camo car, quite fashionable indeed. You would have seen one of the Kardashians sporting a similar frock just a few years ago. Callum Kerrigan now in the mix. The 79 has gotten themselves, that's Hubert Hauser for Tazelworm Racing. That's a drive-through penalty for, you guessed it, track limits here. And that will put them right near the back of the race, I'm going to assume. Now, has he done this in turn one? It's quite favorable in turn one. You could really go off here, as you mentioned in the pre-show. No, that wasn't it. But still, he got a drive-through penalty in one of these corners, we can assure you. And he will need to serve that. Probably came off the final corner, similar to what we saw Miguel Martins do a little bit ago. But Matt Malcolm, I've realized what's going on there. Of course, obviously, easy for me to say this now, the Super Trofeo car, John, quicker in a straight line than the Porsche Cup car. Every straightaway he catches him, and he gives up a little bit in the corners to the Porsche Cup car, and that's why they were locked in a battle, and that's not good for Matt Malcolm, because that is bringing Callum Kerrigan and Kaladian in this fight for fourth.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Kerrigan's not too far behind Calatayud with the drive-through penalty offsetting them. We know they've got the pace for the top four at least, so Carlos could certainly find his way into this fight. I mean, if I'd say so as well, I reckon the Lamborghini's kind of a good balanced car. More than anything, it's kind of fast in the straights, it's good in the corners, versus the Porsche that's just kind of, it's good towards the top end of the straights, as Callum Kerrigan goes round in turn 12. That's that one done and dusted. So the only person that can catch now is Carlos Calatayud. Let's have a look what has happened here. Coming towards turn 12, it's going to be too much inside curb. It is a bit of a weird bounce, and off to driver's right goes Kerrigan. Keeps his foot in it, gets it looped back round, and gets it back underway. Nobody else involved in that one. But what I was saying, I think the Lamborghini's quite good balance in both cornering and straight line speed. The Porsche kind of just, it's lacking compared to the Lamborghini in both departments, but is, equally as strong if driven by the right person. And as we know, the Ferrari, an absolute rocket ship in a straight line. That was very scary as the car disappeared inside.
Halloween
Mike
was
Redford,
a couple of months ago, please.
Certainly no jump scares here tonight, please, as Redford having to defend. I think this is Leon Randall in the 836, and just behind, have a look, it's Tom Watts behind though, Jesse. This is the fight for the lead of the Ferraris, and Mike Redford's getting involved in it.
Yeah, Mike Redford is sort of a sitting duck here. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't in this situation, because that Ferrari challenge car is easily the quickest thing on this racetrack in a straight line. It is sort of horrible all over the place in the corners. Not a ringing endorsement for Ferrari, but there's a reason for that. The car's meant to drive like that, but it is the quickest car in a straight line by a long margin. I think it's the quickest car in the sim in a straight line still. So all that considered, hopefully both of these drivers will be able to make their way through on the long front straightaway here at Valencia, but right now it's fully on. Tom Watts has closed the gap. He's used the pit stop, and he's made up the difference. It was about 1.5 seconds after that. He's made up that difference on the racetrack, and Mike Redford helping a little bit, but Tom Watts has got there on merit, I can assure you that. Leon Randall, who's been mostly unchallenged this entire race, finds his win in jeopardy in the final 10 minutes.
Now, I'm not too sure, Jesse Lee. We've just been handed a bit of an insider's note from Phil Roberts in our comms box, and speculation says that Tom Watts could be underfueled by about half a lap, and maybe Leon Randall could be as well.
Oh,
and apparently
no.
Bob Franken is safe for fuel. So have they tried to go too safe, make the car too light to try and get the upper hand on each other, and actually undercook the fuel strategy somewhat towards the end?
That would be an incredible and frustrating outcome. If you're Randall and Watts, you're just trying to manage it. That would also explain sort of the situation we have here with Mike Redford, I think, as well. What's going on here? I think some cars out there are just trying to make it their own fuel. They were trying to get one up on each other on the fuel strategy. That's a half a lap shy in 10 minutes. You should be able to make that up. But if you're racing each other, it's definitely a lot harder than it otherwise would be. And if you're Rob Franken sitting there in third place, not really challenged, he's also in sort of a John Dalton zone, a John Franken zone, if you will. He's sitting there going, run out, sputter, do something, because he could end up winning this race by just virtually not having to do anything, just playing the race smart while everybody else is trying to outfox each other. Quite an interesting development here in the Ferrari Challenge class.
Yeah, absolutely that. I mean, it's, relatively easy, as you say, in 10 minutes to save the fuel needed. So it shouldn't be a problem. But again, never say never, as we've seen it all too
You like
much.
Justin Bieber, don't you, John?
I
Keep
mean,
saying that.
never say never. We've seen it far too many
Wow.
times with
Wow.
RCI
Our
where we think,
broadcaster. I'm sorry. Breaking news. Our broadcaster just sang Justin Bieber in our ears.
Ted
Of all
Bieber coming at you.
Of all Ted the Biebs, he's here. I gotta say, we got a lot of crazy stuff happening behind the scenes here at RCI, but never that. Thank you, Ted.
Back to my point in question, I was going to say we've had some crazy stuff happen also at RCI where you think a driver is safe, they're going to make it, they're they've calculated it all, and in the last dying moments they've actually undercalculated it, and it's gone another lap, and they've sold themselves short in the pit stop. And of course the last thing you want to do currently is come back down the pit lane, turn the car off, drop a few more litres in and get back underway, as Carlos Calatian really pushing the envelope through turn 12 over the inside curve.
I think he's good on fuel. What do you think?
I think he's pretty safe on fuel as he's hunting down the back of Matthew Malcolm now within earshot. 7 minutes on the clock, Jesse. There's going to be a few more laps to go yet, and I think Matthew Malcolm is going to be feeling the pressure right now.
Yeah, up front, the situation has stabilized. Badowski got that within 2 seconds, the gap. Boardman has responded, and it widened the gap out by about 0.3. No immediate fight there. The fight for this position in that Lamborghini Super Trofeo class is absolutely on, as Malcolm continuing to, I wouldn't say necessarily defend, but Kaladian all over the place. Peter Varga has received a second drive-through penalty. Carlos Kaladian, though, send of the day maybe, as he goes up the inside and converts a pass on Matt Malcolm for P4 class. Let's take another look at this. How's he get this done?
Coming out of turn 2, down towards the kink of turn 3.
Whoa!
Matthew Malcolm a bit slow off 3. Carlos read it
contact.
and fired it straight to the inside. Maybe a small bump as they both made their way through turn 4, but no harm, no foul. Really, both drivers keeping it underway, and in theory,
I wouldn't have saw that coming either.
No,
That's
I'd say
incredible.
Carlos released towards the back of Christian Lindgren, and I don't think he's going to get too involved with Christian Lindgren, as Carlos is too far off Jordan Daly in the Lamborghini now.
Yep, certainly so, as top two continue to circulate around that 2 second window, that 2 second gap between them. No issues there whatsoever, as Marco Badowski's trying to respond. He can see him. There he is, Andy Boardman, the dark colored car, but Marco unable to bridge the gap, and with 5.5 minutes to go, it's starting to look like a pass that maybe a little bit too far out there to make. Now, we have been told conflicting information. We were told that Leon Randall, they was suspected that they were under fuel. We've been told by another party that Leon Randall is fine on fuel, and Tom Watts is the only one under fueled. And there is some debate behind the scenes here on if somebody is playing poker or is shooting straight. You know what? I think Randall's fine. I think Tom Watts is backed off. I think he's in fuel saving. I don't think Randall is doing nearly as much of that right now. And that will sadden Rob Franken, who was looking to pick up a couple of late race positions there, but still has the podium. Looking at the likely outcome, it's going to be Boardman, Badowski, and Daly in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo class. Huell, Leffe, and Lindgren in the Porsche Cup class. And Randall, Watson, Franken, the top three in the Ferrari Challenge class. But, hey, never say never.
Jesse Bieber coming at you again, and Ted Edwards in our ears serenading us once again, Jesse. Carlos,
I think he listened to the Biebs. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it right now.
I think he was, yeah. Secret Beeps fan in the early years. Carlos Calatian onto the back, though, of Christian Lindgren. This could, of course, split the Porsches up in running order. However, no real position gained for Carlos on this one, purely for overwrite bragging honours on this one. As you said, Boardman out front with Badowski and Daly. Huell's looking relatively comfortable now from Leffe, 7 seconds to the good. Lindgren, 3.2 seconds behind, not really going to be within touching distance. And It's wonderful, isn't it, Jesse? We went through qualifying. Every manufacturer was kind of mixed in amongst each other. And now if you look at the running order, other than Mike Redford being the kind of odd one out,
themselves out, didn't they?
everybody's sorted into categories near enough. You've
Yeah.
got the leading Lamborghinis, the leading Porsches, the mid-pack Lamborghinis with Mike Redford, the leading Ferraris, and then the back end of the Porsches from 15th to 18th. So it's wonderful how racing happens, and it all, sorts itself out oddly satisfyingly in our leaderboard to the left-hand side.
Yeah, Mike Redford ruining everything here, but no, seriously, nearly a Noah's Ark situation almost, as it was jumbled completely in the middle of this field, and now they've sort of sorted themselves out into their own category more or less, and that's even more impressive when you consider that we've had 4 or 5 drive-through penalties, a stop and go, a botched pit stop, etc., etc. So all that considered, for them to have still found each other is pretty incredible, to say the least. Badowski continuing to make headway here. 1.6 seconds the gap is. Again, it might just be a little bit too late, but we've said that before and been wrong, so we will hold our tongue. Don't tell Carlos Caladia this doesn't matter. The Rebound Racing driver is going to go for the pass here on Christian Lindgren. Lindgren's going to oblige by staying out to the side, or is he? Contact there, a fight for P6, as Lindgren did not go particularly quietly into that night, but Carlos Caladia up into 6th place, but now gives the position back almost immediately. Now, was that purposeful or was that accidental? I have no idea, but Lindgren back up to 6th, Caladia back down to 7th.
Certainly kicking and screaming, I think, if you needed a definition of that pass there. Lindgren wasn't going to let that happen all too easily. Just looking towards lap time, Johan Leffe, 1:34.8 last time by. Christian Lindgren, 1:33.9. So Johan Leffe has lost some time somewhere.
There's
Badowski
2 laps to go, too.
Equally closing down. Boardman, 1:33 flat. Badowski, a 1:32.2. So again, if they run one more lap like this could be another fight to the checkered flag.
Nail biter.
Certainly is, and we promised it at the beginning of the broadcast. This is going to be one to stay seated for, essentially, at this point, and we think this could go 2 more laps, Jesse, because I think if Boardman lifts, Badowski will take it.
Yeah, they crossed the line with 1:46, 48 left to go, and they're running 1:30 whatever's around here for the top class. So they will get 1 more lap. This is not the final lap of the race. Boardman would very much love to have this be the end of the race, but it won't be. He's going to have to hang on. And Badowski has erased 2.3 seconds of gap in the last 3 laps alone. He's taken another 2/10 out of it in the middle sector as well. Yeah, call it 3/10 actually erased in sectors 1 and 3, and there's lap traffic coming into play here.
Yeah, traffic giveth and traffic taketh away. In theory, the Ferrari shouldn't be a problem once it does get the power down, but it's struggling to get the power down. Andy Boardman has to go to the left, towing Badowski across the line. 18 seconds to go as they cross the line for the final lap of the race, and the Ferrari has held up Boardman enough for Badowski to pull alongside. Tries the outside line of turn 1.
That's the Ferrari's out of here. He doesn't want anything to do.
He's looking in the mirror. He definitely doesn't want to play a part in this leading fight.
Absolutely
for the
not, said the Ferrari.
Lap of the race. Yeah, that's a big note
car's
if
off
ever
in front.
I've seen one. That's Miguel Martins off into the beach as well. He's back on in front. More traffic for Andy Boardman to navigate. Martins stays out of the way and allows Badowski and Boardman through. And just ahead, Mike Redford could get involved in this one as well.
Certainly could. You got to watch out for everybody in play. Keep in mind, if these two get involved in an incident, Daly's considerably far behind, but you never know. I saw cars. I saw how that race ended. So Andy Boardman for Greased Weasel trying to win this race. He's going to need to hang on for a couple more corners. 1 slip, 1 misjudgment, 1 off track could be the difference between winning and second place. Badowski clearly there. Lap traffic may play a factor here in the end. If they catch the Porsche that's immediately in front, I believe that's Mike Redford, and it is. Redford usually will just remove themselves from the situation if they get there, but that's all hearsay. We'll see how it comes down, as it looks like Boardman has steadied the ship as they come off the final turn.
Yeah, Boardman's done just enough to win the Monday Cup one-off here at RCI. A fantastic victory. It wasn't an easy one this time. You can see how elated Andy Boardman is as he crosses the line. In the background, I think Leon Randall crosses the line with Tom Watts in tow. Both drivers safe on fuel. Could that have been a bit of a mind game, a bit of a poker face going on in the Ferrari
Lady
Challenge
Gaga
class?
now, huh? Really? We're hitting them all. We're hitting
We're
all
going
the
through
hits.
all the noughties hits here tonight on
Oh,
RCI
goodness.
TV. Badowski, of course, comes through in second. Somewhere down the road is Jordan Daly, hopefully to take the next step of the podium.
Oh, no!
Or is he?
Oh, no!
Is he?
No, he's
I
not!
think Daly,
It's over!
he's run out of fuel.
Oh,
He's
going to
run
rock
out of
that
fuel,
car
Jesse.
on the starter motor. Rafael Huel's going to come through to win it in the Porsche Cup category. And several
that,
of the
though.
cars coming
Rafael
through.
Huel, podium, Jesse.
Rafael Huel
podium.
overall podium. Jordan Daly rocking that car. He's gonna get some international assistance. Here it is, Matt Malcolm. Oh, this is exactly what you look for. You're looking for help, communication, and assistance. This is UK and
Kerrigan's
Scotland.
involved.
It's a three-way, and I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. It's a three-way between Daly, Malcolm, and Kerrigan, and I'm jealous.
And they all keep their retrospective places as
And
well. Daly beats Malcolm.
Across the line.
And Kerrigan stays behind. Mike Redford with the style points of the session.
He's not finished.
The final
He's not
turn.
finished.
He's going for the 360. He's got it planted. He's back.
Man, you can tell
right
this
way.
is the last race of the year, can you? On Monday,
Absolutely.
you can tell.
So everybody enjoying themselves here tonight at RCI, and Mike Redford with maximum style points through the final turn over the line to round out the grid for tonight. 20 cars have finished with us here today. 2 retirees being Speed
That meant
and
Kalani had
Roscam.
finished third in the Super Trofeo class, right?
It did, correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct there, Jesse. Results on your screen right now. Of course, Andy Boardman at the top with Marco Badowski just behind there. Rafael Huel, of course, in third. I think Ted might have the qualifying results up here. I'm struggling to possibly read at the moment. But Johan Leffe, of course, comes through in fourth position. Carlos Calatayud, followed by Christian Lindgren, Jordan Daly, Matthew Malcolm, Callum Kerrigan, and Mike Redford round out your top 10. Leon Randall did have enough fuel to get across the line, along with Tom Watts behind and Rob Franken for the honours in the Ferrari class. Kevin Boss, followed by Ted Ers, Fox, Phil Malta, Hauser, Martins, and Varga all managed to finish. Unfortunately, Speed and Roscam called it a day. Down the garage doors went, and no further part they took. But Jesse, what a race to round out. It was a bit of an oddball series to pick. You know, all the Cup cars lumped into one at a particularly odd circuit, if I say so myself. Valencia wouldn't have been top of my picks, but nevertheless, Kevin Boss has cooked it, and he certainly made it work for us tonight here in the broadcast booth.
Yeah, he certainly did. What a crazy race this was. I spent the majority of the past couple of weeks trying to figure out why it was called the Cup race when there were 3 Cup cars available. And eventually, when I figured out how English worked, I figured out that it was Monday Cup, Cup event is what it was. Again, English, not my first language. You know, racing may be Rafael Huel's first language. He started 21st on the grid. Not only did he win his class, he finished on the overall podium. Rafael Huel joins us. Huel, what the heck are you made of?
I don't know. Probably petrol. Because I was using a lot in that Porsche. It seemed like it was like 0.1 liters more than any others.
Well, I got to say, it was incredible. We gave you credit for a podium in your category. We expected it to be a little difficult to get around some of the cars. That wasn't until we saw at the end of lap 1, you had already made up 12 spots and you were already in a podium position in your class. We thought, oh yeah, top 5. Overall podium in the end, just the most ridiculous thing. You're a ridiculous human being.
I didn't expect
That's a
it.
compliment.
Thank you. I just heard that Daly ran out of fuel. Then he showed up on my screen, and he was very slow at that point. At times I was looking, in the front, and so he was 15 seconds ahead. Then I caught maybe half a second per lap, but that was not enough to catch him on pace.
What are you going to do in 2025? I mean, you're a mainstay around here. You win just about everything. I mean, today, of course, for instance, the last Monday race of the year. What's up with Rafael Hill for 2025?
Definitely more racing. It's very fun here on RCI. Lots of people that are really good to race with. Maybe I'll take it a bit easier and focus more on university, just studying a bit more and practicing on second place.
I
Education.
just want to interject, Jesse. Please don't have Flink more of his ego. Please.
Okay.
It's good
Education.
enough.
Education is super important. I will say that, Huel, you should absolutely do that more. But we love having you around. You do things with race cars that most people, well, they do whenever they turn the difficulty down on the game. But you don't have that option, and you still do it. Well done. Well raced today.
Thank you.
We're going to go to Marco Badowski, runner-up today in the race overall. Got really, really close. Marco, you led early. What did you need to convert that last little spot?
Maybe a little bit more time and a more aggressive move into turn one in the last lap would have helped. Like maybe like hindsight is always 20/20, but I could have tried to pick the insides, but you are always smarter afterwards. I decided to go for the outside because it worked on the first lap as well. But
It's absolutely true. Good. It was a brilliant race. I think for the most part, your strategy, you trying to outfox Boardman at the top was really nice. You really got close to doing it. If you had to do it over again, you say you would have sent it in turn one.
yeah, probably we were like I had the complete track map open and like only after that I realized we were so far ahead of P3 that I could have allowed myself a mistake and probably still finish P2 no matter what. Unless I would have gotten a drive-through penalty. I was on my final warning for like half the race, so had to be a bit more careful on that, especially on turn one, because I got all my free warnings there.
I hear you. I gotta say, it was a brilliant fight right up to the end. You gave him a run for his money, and you made him earn it. So, thank you for that. Providing a lot of the entertainment today. Marco Badowski, P2. Marco, you want to shout out the team?
Yeah, of course. I want to shout out my amazing teammate Peter Wager, who let's just say like he didn't have that much discipline in terms of track limits, unfortunately. But I'm sure like when I saw the race, like that it came up, like it was clear to me in the first moment that I didn't want to drive the Ferrari challenge, especially on a track like this. I would have probably gotten at least 2 drive-throughs as well with my driving.
Well, there you go. Marco Badowski, P2 today. Hell of a fight. Led some of the race. Kept it really interesting throughout. Definitely kept Boardman very, very earnest. Congratulations. Hope to see you back next year.
Yep, I'll definitely be back, and thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure, Marco Badowski. Huel, I didn't ask because I'm a bit silly. Anybody you want to shout out for the end of the year?
Oh, the Monday Gang, of course. Monday Gang and Flying Hellfish. Great team. Not that many people racing in the 6 hour this year, but we'll be back in full force for the next one, hopefully.
Let's go, Team Taters.
Team Taters.
Yeah, you love to see it. We're going to go to Leon Randall. Randall winning it in the Ferrari Challenge class. Leon, first question. How difficult was it to drive that car? And especially considering you had Tom Watts, Rob Franken, and everybody else trying to take the spot from you. How hard was it to manage that car for an hour?
Jesus. Overall, it was it was fine. To be honest, like I drove it probably first time about 2 hours before the race. Tires, they went after about 5 minutes, and I hated that. And I mean, you probably saw just Tom closed the gap very, very, very quickly. But then I think he ran out of fuel, unfortunately, and had a fuel save. But yeah, no, overall the car I found really fun.
Well,
It's-
we got to ask because we got conflicting information in the box of you also having to fuel save. Did you underfuel the car at all, or were you ever under any sort of duress about your fuel? Did you have the fuel to make it to the end after your pit stop?
Oh yeah, I had 2 extra laps. I was just having a skill issue at the end.
Okay. Anybody you want to shout out for the win today?
I mean, Kirsty, he was race engineering whilst also driving, which was very good. But overall, just SOS in general, have been really good throughout the year. But you know, thanks for having me. It's really fun.
Absolute pleasure. Leon Randall, your winner in the Ferrari Challenge category. From the winner to the runner up, Tom Watts. Tom, you had a cheeky little strategy, didn't quite work out in the end, but still a solid podium today.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, just the tires were not loving life towards the end of those stints, so wanted to split it half and half, and then like 8 minutes to go, I lost all sound. So I
Oh
was
my.
I was sort of guessing when to upshift and downshift because you don't realize how much you listen to the sound to know when to downshift and upshift. So yeah, I just dropped right off the back of Leon. I did have to fuel save a little bit, like half a liter, but then I got lapped, so it didn't matter. So it's fine.
Well, I gotta say, we see you here on Mondays, and we see you racing, and it's nice to end the season with a podium. That's got to feel good. Carry that with you into next year. We gonna see you in more races in 2025.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I've not long moved house, so it's been a bit sparse with like. That's why I didn't enter the six hour because I couldn't commit to it. But hopefully next year, do a bit more, and obviously carry on with stewarding and such as well.
Anybody you want to shout out, Mr. Watts?
Well, the RCI team. I think we do a good job, and especially the commentary team because you guys do a amazing job every week, and I feel like it needs putting out. So yeah, keep it up.
What an absolute sweetheart, Tom Watts, P2 in the Ferrari Challenge class. I'm just gonna go in the order that you appear in the room from now on. Miguel Martins. Oh boy, rough day.
No, it was fun. Fun, very fun.
Do I detect sarcasm?
Well, sort of. It was a fun start, and it was fun to chase down Redford up until I had to do a pit stop and kind of screwed that up and got an SG30.
Yeah,
Yeah, up until that
we
point,
saw
it was fun.
the penalty, but I am curious where you thought you would have come not getting that penalty. Where do you think you'd ended up?
Oh, I would have been just behind Redford, but with like 10 minutes, like like 10-minute fresher tires and very low fuel. So basically hot lapping, which would have been awesome. But
I got
yeah,
you.
unfortunately, just they got a like coming into the pits on the last corner. Portman was behind me, just sent it a bit. It distracted me. I got the wrong line. I got the wrong braking point. So yeah, I'm just blaming him. It's not my fault.
Well, you've thrown them under the bus. Maybe shout out the team one last time in 2024 on Monday.
Yeah, fun racing with Hellfish, flying Hellfish. Hopefully next year we do a bit more of endurance. This year has been a bit rough.
Well, there you go. Miguel Martins was in it until that dreaded stop and go. We all hate to see it, but you'll see Miguel out there next year. I can guarantee it. Miguel, thanks for coming and talking to us.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. You guys are awesome.
Always a pleasure. Going from Miguel Martins, we're going to go to Callum Kerrigan. Callum, where did it all go wrong?
In true Callum fashion, the world's most inconsistent person in the race. I think I just got bored of staring at the rear end of Matt Malcolm for as long as I did. Now, don't get me wrong.
You'd be the first person in history to ever say that.
It's a lovely rear end, but I just got sick of it towards the end of the race. Clearly.
Matt Malcolm, since you're here with us and you heard that interview, do you have a response to Callum?
First time I heard that comment, so yeah.
Yeah.
I hope to hear it more next year.
Callum, what did you What did you need today to get a better result, do you think?
Practice. Yeah, practice. I think in all honesty, I was pretty much dreading the race. I'm not a big fan of Valencia, but I thought I'd hop in last race of the year and all, and I can't deny that was probably the most fun I've had in a race for a very, very long time.
Well, there you go. I was told prior to today's race you were looking for any excuse to maybe drop off the grid today, but despite it being rough for you, I'm glad you didn't, and you definitely provided some entertainment out there for us early on. And hey, we've all been mesmerized by looking at Matt Malcolm's rear end. Speaking of which, we'll talk to him in a second. Callum, anyone you want to shout out for the end of the year?
Just the standards. Monday gang, the RCI crew.
Monday gang.
Hope everyone has a lovely Christmas.
Thank you so much. Callum Kerrigan, a mainstay here of RCI. He's everywhere. He's on the racetrack. He's in the steward's box. He's in the commentary booth. Can't stop him. Can't stop that man. Speaking of not being able to stop somebody, the resident Scotsman here, Matt Malcolm. Matt, a day for you. How was it in the Super Trofeo?
Never practiced in the car, and it's been 9 months, 10 months since I dragged on Valencia. So yeah, I think it was pretty good so far.
Well,
I think
I gotta just mention that you were about the first car on pit lane. What triggered you to come down pit lane that early?
sheer forgetfulness and how much the tires get murdered by this track.
So even in the Super Trofeo, that was happening.
Yeah. So essentially, it was fine at start. I pit early because of the Calatiud and Daily battle, so I decided to go for that because trying to get an undercut. But then the tire started murdering itself after 10 minutes, and I knew I made that mistake onwards.
Anybody you want to shout out maybe for the end of the year?
Just everybody on Monday, everybody on RCI, and just everybody who joins in for any race. Just obviously keep up the sportsmanship that goes for everybody else, and just keep on racing.
Matt Malcolm, another individual here at RCI that is all over the place. He's on the racetrack. He's in the booths. He can do it all. Malcolm, thanks for coming and talking to us. Hope to see you in the new year.
Oh, well, certainly will be. I'll see you soon.
One final message from me for the Monday gang. I just want to thank every single one of the competitors, the organizers, of course, Tim Ireland throughout the year, Kevin Boss coming in now will be the new manager of Monday. This is the first event of his tenure, and what can I say? It was thrilling down to the last. But to the drivers, the Monday gang, as they're called, RCI's most popular championship these days. Thank you so much for being with us in 2024. You joining us, putting up with some of the crazy races and series that we do, and keeping coming back and making it interesting and giving people like myself and John Dalton things to talk about all year round, being warm and welcoming to us because we come into their chat every race, pre-race, and ask them questions while they're trying to get in final practice. Their accommodating nature. It's just a different culture here on Mondays, and it's all because of the Monday gang. A big thank you to everyone who helps make that possible. And for the final time on a Monday, it's been an absolute honor and a privilege to be able to cast this for you for 2024. Big thanks to Ted Edwards today, Stewie, myself, and anyone who's casted a Monday race. And last but not least, the broadcast, the commentary team itself, John Dalton, your lead commentator for almost the entire year here on Monday. Just a brilliant job as always. We hope to see you all back for 2025. But for 2024, thank you all so much for the memories. Back down to you, John.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself, Jesse. A big thank you to everybody involved in making Mondays possible, and like you said, it's been wonderful to be here for the majority of 2024. I think I missed maybe a handful of events that I can count off the top of my head, but it's great to see everybody progress through from newcomers that join us at the beginning of the year to fighting for the top spots towards the end of the year. It's been a brilliant journey watching you all duke it out amongst yourselves on Mondays and across the RCI calendar, of course, not only in ACC now, but also branching out into iRacing. And Friday this week, we're of course branching out into Le Mans Ultimate. Wednesdays this week, you can find iRacing over on the website. That's the BMW M2 CS at Oran Park. 2 20-minute sprint races, both car and track are in the base iRacing subscription. Friday, as I just alluded to, we are heading to our first Le Mans Ultimate event. Sebring playing host to a 1-hour race featuring hypercars and LMGT3 as we race under the evening skies at the historical circuit. Sign-ups are also open for Legends at Southern National. That's in iRacing as well, and that takes place on Wednesday, the 8th of January, so heading on into 2025. Similar to the M2, it's 2 20-minute sprint races, and again, both car and track are included in the base subscription. And if you remember those GT2 cars that got released in January last year, or this year, sorry, within ACC, next up on Kevin Boss's Monday schedule will be a quick trip to Misano, starting off the new year on Monday, January 6th. Join us as we take these quick machines around Misano for an hour on the clock with a mandatory pit stop and fixed refueling. Sign-ups open on Monday the 23rd of December, but the event is live on the website. I'm being told as of now. And also Ted Edwards allowing us a sneak preview into Night Owl, if you're curious to know when that's starting back up. We are back for season 20. Kicking off a 5-round championship featuring a custom BOP, 1-hour sprint races, and a 90-minute finale. Sign-ups for that one will open on January 4th. So again, heading on into the new year, with seasons set to start on Saturday, January the 18th. And of course, if you are interested in having a look at our website, you can head on over racerci.com. You can find all of our links down below in the description, and also all of our partner links. They've been revolving around in the bottom left-hand side of your screen: AK Esports, Go Setups, and Moser Racing. We're very thankful to them, such as everybody at home. And it is, I think, for the last time on a Monday night to sign off our broadcast. It's been a pleasure working with everyone behind the scenes on getting this onto RCI TV, watching you all race, as I said earlier, amongst yourselves, scrapping it out throughout the whole year. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait for what 2025 is going to bring us. So if I don't see you before then, happy holidays, best wishes to everyone, and a happy new year from all of us at RCI. You can, of course, catch the M2 CS at Oran Park on RCI TV this Wednesday. So it's not over yet for broadcasting, but thank you very much indeed. So from myself, John Dalton, from Jesse Lee alongside me, from Ted Edwards behind the cameras, and everybody else involved with making Mondays possible, we thank you very much indeed. We hope you have a great holiday season and take care of yourselves.